Good evening and welcome to my International Championship blog. I'm going to go over my outrights, quarters, singles and two brand new tips in the tournament that starts in the early hours of the morning in Daqing. Normally I end with my new tip, but this time I'm going to start with it. So if you just want to listen to my tip for the event, I'm going to get it out of the way straight away. There's obviously match markets, as always, via Bet365, and there's two matches, two prices I like the look of. Firstly, it comes in the Graham Dott Michael White match, and I'm going to go with over 0.5 player centuries for Graham Dott. Now, probably, the last few years, he's certainly been a player that you'd want to oppose in century breaks. Every season he regularly gets around about sort of 9 to 13. I think the most he's ever done is 19 centuries in a season. But yeah, he's a regular 9 to 12 in a season player. And the reason why I quite like him for this match is generally because of the price. He's 13 to 8, and I've delved into a little bit of information on it. In his last 10 matches that Graham Dott has played, he's actually hit 7 centuries in those matches. Alright, 4 of them did come in best of 19 games. In the World Championship he won. He came through 3 qualifiers, and then obviously he lost in the at the Crucible to Stuart Bingham. But yeah, he had a century in every one of those matches, and he started the season. He's already hit 2 already this season. He did have one in qualifying for this against Fan Zhengzi. He had 2 actually. He's had 2 big tons this season. He's always been one I've liked to have posed in century breaks, generally because of his Q power. He's not the one that would break the pack open and then he can make, he's not the most fluent of break builders, but certainly in the form that he's in, he played quite well in Riga. He came through a few rounds there. He's playing Michael White, who I think who's gone right down the rankings. I'm surprised he qualified, and he's certainly a player to oppose, and I think Graham Dott will win the match fairly comfortably, sort of around 6-1, 6-2. So he's got 6 frames, in my opinion, to make a century, and I think 13 to 8. Say he's had 7 centuries in his last 10 matches. I think is a very decent price, especially when you look at the other players in the tournament. A lot of them are odds on, and I think Bet365 just made a little bit of a made this price a little bit too big. So 13 to 8 on Dott, over 0.5 centuries in the match against Michael White. The other tip I'm going to be putting up is Mark Joyce, in the same market as Graham Dott. Over 0.5 centuries for Mark Joyce, it's 11 to 4, and I think that's a really good price. He's actually had 4 centuries this season. He only hit 2 all of last season. In pre-season, he had 9 centuries, including a 147 in the Vienna Open, which he won. Obviously, last week he got to the final in Riga, his first as a professional. He's queuing really well at the moment, and I think the bookmakers Bet365 have priced this in that they think that Stuart will win this fairly comfortably, and Mark won't. He's only going to get maybe 1 or 2 frames, which gives him a slim chance of getting a century. But I think Mark's got a very good chance in this match. Stuart could be caught cold here, and Mark, every time he's been getting in recently, he's been scoring very heavily. And I think 11 to 4 on a century is a very plausible bet, and that's my second of my brand new tips for the International Championship. If I'm going to go on to going over my outright and quarter selections in the International Championship. If you haven't seen my preview, I put up Dave Gilbert at 40-1 in the outright. He's probably my main definitely my main selection in it. Obviously, was outstanding last season. He lost in 2 ranking finals. One was in China. In both finals he led. He lost to Mark Williams in Yushan. He was, I think, 8-5 up and lost 9-8. He was also up against Kyle Wilson in Germany, in the German Masters, and lost. So he travels very, very well. He was obviously, again, fantastic at the Crucible. He lost in a decide in the semi-final to John Higgins. He won a lot of friends that whole week, and he played well in qualifying for this. He won 6-0 against James Cahill, scored very heavily. He's a player that might start a little bit slowly. He's got Ken Doherty first. I don't see any problems there. But as the tournament progresses, he gets stronger, and he's got a very winnable section, in my opinion. He's got Mark Selby, Mark Williams, the chief players to beat in the section, in the quarter. So, I don't think those two will cause him too many sleepless nights. Dave is such a class act. I said in my piece that he's, in my opinion, the best player not to have won a ranking event, and I'm sure he'll win one this season. And he's got an excellent chance in these tournaments in China, which he always seems to perform well in. So that was my first one. The second one was a bit speculative, but I just thought Daniel Wells at 500-1 was far too big. He should be about a 200-1 shot, which he generally is now. I think you can still get about 400s with Paddy Power, but Sky Bet's 500s was outrageous on a player who's improving. He was with Sight Right last season, and he got to the semi-final of the Scottish Open, where he played fantastically well throughout the event, beating all comers. I think he beat Ryan Day and on the way, and very, very underrated player. He lost 6-5 to Mark Allen in that Scottish Open semi, and he did lead 5-2, and he just proved what a really good player he is. And he's got Barry Hawkins first, who he beat in his last match against him last year in the English Open. So it's not like he's going to be going in there without beating or knowing that he can beat the player. Hawkins has lost in many first rounders last season. I think he lost in 8 first rounders. So a very tricky first match for Hawkins, and I think if Wells can win that, he could build a bit of momentum. And he's 50-1 for the quarter as well. I've tipped that as well. So Wells I just thought was a bit big on the big side at 500-1. Going on to my quarter bets, Yan Bingtao obviously won the Riga last week, and he's the type of player that now he's broken his hoodoo of winning a ranking event. He could go on from strength to strength. It's not an easy quarter he's in. I think he's in the Stuart Bingham, I think there's Sean Murphy, Robertson, and I just feel that his confidence is going to be through the roof. He's got to win, I think, an extra match. He's got a pre-qualifier against Alfie Burden, and he should come through that pretty comfortably. But I think Bingtao, he didn't play, I don't think, outstandingly well in the Riga either. I mean, he was 3-1 down to Hang in, I think, the quarter-final. He just, he scored pretty well. I don't think he didn't have too many centuries, but he's just a very, very consistent scorer, and he's a very intelligent player. Very rarely does the wrong shot, and his general game management is excellent for a 19-year-old. He's a scary talent, and I thought 18-1 was way over the top to win the quarter. I think he was about 80. I think he's about 80-1 for the tournament. To win back-to-back will be very, very difficult. But I think he's definitely was overpriced. And my last pick was Mark Joyce, 66-1. I think he's around about 50s now. Again, as I've mentioned earlier, he's just in really, really good nick at the moment. He's beaten Stuart Bingham in the previous encounter. I think it was in 2016, so it was a long time ago. But he's flying at the moment. I've been chatting to him quite a lot since he's come back in Riga, and while he was in Riga, he's on sort of cloud nine at the moment. Confidence is high, he's scoring really well, and he's fearing nobody, and he's forgetting about other players. He's just concentrating on himself, and I just think while he's on this crest of a wave, a bit like Bing Tao, I think he's in not as no difficulter quarter than he was in Latvia. So Mark Joyce can go well again. And my only single selection is Zhao Zhangbo, the 15-year-old player who's not 16 till the end of this month, to beat Anthony McGill 8-1. The 8-1's gone. I think he's about 13-2 top price now to beat McGill. 3 weeks ago he won the World Under-21 Championship. He also won the Asian Under-21 title, I think a few months back. He lost in the Xi'an Open to Zhang Anda just before the season started, which contained all the top jollies from China. So he's a real talent, and Anthony McGill, I mentioned in my piece that he's got an absolutely diabolical record in China. He's been in China first round 20 times, and he's lost in the first round 15 of them. And I also read in my piece that he didn't turn up he did turn up eventually. He dropped a frame against Nigel Bond last year in the China Open before the World Championship because he overslept, and I just wonder whether he likes the time difference. Does McGill, because his record is absolutely wretched, and it's first at 206, best of 11. You probably would favour McGill, but you certainly wouldn't want to be touching him at 1-20, which he was. I think he's around about sort of 1-12 shot now. Even there, he is one to oppose against virtually most players on tour at prices like that. So Zhao Zhangbo, hopefully he can stand up and be counted, because he's obviously a very, very talented lad. So that concludes my vlog. Good luck. He actually plays in the early hours of Sunday morning, so when we wake up, hopefully we'll have an 8-1 winner, but hopefully he just gives a good account of himself. And thanks very much for listening, watching. Hope there's a good tournament, and all the best. Thanks. Bye.